Election week. It is elections. I am Canadian. I'm not really following the elections that close. I knew that it was elections this week, but I woke up a bit out of it. I took a trade on the funded account, sort of completely forgetting about the elections. I was meant to sit out of this price action. It was a break even trade, and as soon as I got stopped at break even, I realized that I shouldn't really be trading this week. I should be a lot more careful. So I took a step back and sort of just forward tested with the little bro. But let's get into the trading day here, man. Actually, speaking of being from Canada, comment down below where you're from, man. I'd love to know. And once we can sort of build this channel up a little bit, I'd love to know if there's any fellow traders from the Toronto area who are watching any of these videos, man. Like in the future, once we sort of start gaining some momentum, I'd love to, possibly do some meetups and sort of just connect with some like-minded people. So comment down below where you're from. Anyway, going into the day here, this is sort of what I was looking at the higher time frame. So we were sort of in a sell model here, and we took this low out. So right off the bat, this to me looked like we wanted to start pushing up. So right off the hop, I had a bit of a bullish bias because to me it looked like the sell model was complete. We took this low out, very obvious low. We started pushing up, start consolidating a little bit. So I was expecting a move like this. On top of that, we had relative equal highs going into the day. So I had these marked up. This was the draw and liquidity for the day. And this was sort of the general target for the day. So jumping onto the 1 here. Actually, you know what? Let's start off on the 15. So looking at the 15 minute here, we get a Judas swing in the morning. So market opens, takes an absolute shyster, takes a dookie, and we sort of sweep this. It's not the cleanest LRLR, but we take this out. We take this low down here, so we sweep a lot of liquidity. We barely displace below, and then we start reversing. So to me, it looks like this is the point in the day we're going to get the reversal. So I didn't switch my bias. My bias was bullish off the hop. But as soon as I see this Judas swing barely displace under these lows, we take this low here, sweep this low resistance liquidity. We swept that higher 1 hour time frame low. Now I'm looking for a reversal to these equal highs, or at least London high here. So jumping onto the 1 minute, let me just clear this chart up a bit, make it a bit cleaner. So jumping onto the 1, what we have here is a big Judas swing, massive V-shaped recovery. So we just power through all of these gaps here. We inverse all of these gaps. I believe there's probably just one on the higher time frame. Yep, so 1 5 minute, we inverse this. We waste no time here, man. We just shoot straight through these gaps, big reversal, and then we put in these relative equal highs here. So relative equal highs, you can see that we have a 15-minute gap that is being respected. So I had this 15 minute marked up. We tested it, shot down, tested it. So as soon as this breaks, I'm anticipating this to break and I'm looking to go long. And a couple of my first targets on the day were, so first of all, this was my break-even point right here. I'll get into the trade in a second. So some of the targets that I marked up were London. Was this the London high? No, this was London high here. So I had London high marked up. I had this high marked up, as these to me are basically relative equal highs. So this is a great liquidity pool to target here. And this marked up, and then the relative equal highs marked up right up here. So to me, I was willing to look for longs just because it looked like we had so many good targets, so many liquidity pools up above. The first target would have been these highs right here, these relative equal highs. So anyway, jumping on to, or taking a look at the actual trade. So this is what I decided to take here. So we create a fair value gap. We put in relative equal highs here, which is a great target. Relative equal highs are always a great magnet, great draw on liquidity. So we put in these relative equal highs. We're still respecting this bearish 15-minute gap that's marked up here. Respecting it. Put in this fair value gap. We come back down into discount of this price range. We hold this 1-minute gap here. And then finally, we close above this 1 minute. This is where I decided to enter long. So we close above. This candle starts printing bearish. I get in on the retest here. So I enter a long position for one contract. I'm relatively confident in this position just because we have relative equal highs up here, great target up here, and we had a nice candle close above. But we print about 20 points to the upside. So again, I hopped in on the candle retest. I'll show the executions for you. And we take this high out here. So this was my break even. This is where I went break even on the trade, right at this high, this obvious 930 high. And then unfortunately, we come back down and I got stopped out at break even. Now that's a bit of a bummer because I was up about 22 points on this trade at one point. So up about 1% or $400 and some change. And as you can see, we got stopped out. Price continues to respect this inverse fair value gap right here. And then we start moving to the upside and hit my first take profit right here. So we hit this. We continue to go up, chop, chop, chop. And then we take the London highs, which I have marked up here. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that this is the London session high. And we slowly start dribbling towards that high. So again, I sort of clued into what I was doing. That was a break-even trade. It was a very clean trade, but I shouldn't have taken it just simply because it is election week. Price action is expected to be a little bit choppy. So I decided to forward test from then on. So I didn't take any of these trades. I simply just forward tested with Spencer. And again, this trade to me looked very good. I'm really trying to exercise my patience. This trade, I was very tempted to take this trade on the account, but I didn't. We had a nice liquidity sweep right here. Very obvious gap. You could say that, okay, yeah, we had relative equal highs up here. Not even relative, perfect equal highs up here. So amazing target and London highs right above. So this looked like a very clean trade right here. You could have hopped in on this candle close. Stop would have been a close back below this gap, and look what happens. This setup fails. We get a candle close back below the inverse fair value gap, and that would have stopped me out. So again, good thing I decided to sit on my hands. These setups started to fail, and we start to chop around quite a bit. So very choppy. Finally, we take London highs, and this is arguably the nicest setup of the day here. Very clean setup. So we take London highs, sweep those. As you can see, we don't really displace above them. We just wick above London highs and then immediately start to reverse. And if you take a look on the 2 minute, we have a very obvious gap here. So we leave a fair value gap, again, sweep London highs, and then immediately close below this fair value gap, inversing it, disrespecting it. And you could have hopped in this trade to the downside. But again, election week, we're just forward testing. So we watch this trade play out without us, which is no biggie. We're not going to risk trading before elections, man. And I think elections, again, I'm Canadian, not really following it too closely. But I think elections take place tomorrow. The polls start coming in tomorrow. Anyway, I don't really know. I just know that this week is going to be very volatile. It's going to be very choppy. This trade was probably the cleanest on the day. Looked very nice, but sat on our hands. So we're practicing exercising that discipline, practicing sitting on our hands, and it's okay to just relax for the next couple days, man. We're not going to try to force anything. We will simply just continue to forward test and see what happens, man. And hopefully after elections are done, we get some clean price action and we can start doing some damage on these accounts, start winning some nice trades. So that was the day summed up. Decent day. Was a little squirrely there at the beginning, taking a trade on my funded account. But yeah, man, that was basically it. I'm happy with the way I traded and happy that I'm getting better at sitting on my hands, because I know in the past I didn't really care what was going on. I would trade no matter what. I would trade no news Mondays all the time. I would trade CPI. I would trade the day before FOMC. I'd trade whenever. So this is great. This gives me another opportunity to practice my patience. And yeah, we'll see what the rest of the week brings for us here, man.